Our next speaker, our keynote speaker, is an ImageSoft customer, Chief Judge of the 16th Judicial Court in Macomb County. Please welcome with me, Judge Foster.
Thank you, and good morning. When I received this assignment, and I won't go into how that happened, I thought, what am I going to do? I look around the room, and as I was sitting around yesterday and today, I realized that I'm probably by far the oldest person here. So I'm kind of like the target audience, because if you know courts, you know this is what we are. People who've been here for a long time. And I also know that I've had two failures, spectacular failures, in our trying to move into the technological age. One at circuit and one at district before that. So maybe what I'm here for is simply for you to see this is not the direction you wanted to go. To give you some hints and some clues as to what we are doing and where we're headed. I began as a judge, as you just heard, 23 years ago at the district court. The last 7 I've been on the Macomb County Circuit Court bench. When I first went to the district court in 1990, it took me the better part of a year, literally a year, to wean my secretary off her typewriter and onto the computer-based word processing system. She was just afraid to do it. When I reached the circuit court in 2006, although enormous advances have obviously been made in terms of data storage, data management, and data analysis, nothing had changed that much for the judges since the beginning of time. We still use paper files, we still use paper scheduling, we still fill out paper orders by hand, everything exactly the same way. The only thing that had happened was that our dockets were now printed on computers, and some of the staff people were able to manipulate that and get it to us a lot easier. But it still required going downstairs, getting these piles of files all over the place. And this just didn't seem to make a lot of sense, but it's how things were done. And I had been trying at the district court to change that, and maybe it was just too early in the process for us to do so. What we were seeing was that the technological world was literally passing us by. For many reasons, obviously, those of you in government know how difficult it is sometimes to get things done. But it was happening at the level of the clerks and at the worker levels, but at the judicial level, it just wasn't, and a lot of that had to do with the mindset of those of us who sit on the bench. But about 3 years ago, things began to change in Macomb County. The chief judge we had at the time went out and did something really, really strange. He hired a professional court administrator. It just wasn't somebody that moved up from the law library or one of the lawyers in town that seemed like he was ready to retire from the practice and needed a job doing something else. So we hired a professional administrator, and with the support of most of the bench at that point in time, we began the process of technological modernization, a really, really lengthy and involved process for us in our county. Although Macomb County is the state's 3rd largest county, and we have 840,000 people, and last year we had 20,000 new cases filed, we were still just in the dark ages of a lot of this, because our county government, our court, and our IT departments were still operating in what we do think were the technological dark ages. Although there had been PCs, and this was where my corporation counsel experience came in, there had been PCs in Macomb County since the late 80s and early 90s, we were still operating with that mainframe mindset. And in fact, I learned just this week that we still have 2 of our district courts that are on mainframes. So, you know, the whole county is still separated and not really together and working on these projects and trying to move it a bit forward. Everything in those days, and even now, had to funnel through, and I apologize to my good friend who is here from IT, but it had to funnel its way through the bureaucratic morass, which we know is county IT. And if you have a centralized IT system, and you work in the court, or you work in any other department of county government, or I guess maybe state or city or whatever it is you're here representing, you understand how incredibly difficult it can be to get somebody to come over and take care of things for you. You need something done on your laptop. Well, I don't have, you call somebody from your staff, I don't have administrative authority to get that taken care of. Well, when can you get some? Well, we'll see if we can put in a slip of paper and we'll find out if we can get somebody over there by tomorrow afternoon. It is just horrendous, and it's obviously not the way of the future, and you can tell that now that I'm chief judge, there's going to be a few battles. Maybe I'll win them, maybe I won't, but I think every step we take gets us a little closer as time goes on. So as we began to move forward with our, what we thought was going to be the solution with e-filing and other data management issues, we found our problems were far greater than anything we could have imagined. We didn't know where to turn, we didn't know who to trust, we didn't know who had experience or didn't have experience with this kind of thing. Really, as you just heard from the prior speakers, this is all new stuff. It's still very new, although some of you, because I look around and see how many young people there are here, it's what you've grown up with your entire lives, but we haven't. So we were seeking to create an independent, is how we looked at it, an independent case management system that could be manipulated by each judge, by each clerk, gather the data and collect it and hold it the way we wanted it within the existing case management system. Showing how little we understood our problem, we thought, oh, we know how to solve this. We'll go out and get an e-filing solution. And that's what we did. We received the bids, we signed the contract, and we thought, man, we're on our way. We got this great thing going. We're going to have all the judges on it in no time, and we're going to be really proud of ourselves. Well, we really didn't know what we didn't know at that point in time, because the solution we purchased didn't quite mesh with our data management system. The solutions we purchased required me, I was one of the e-filing judges, to toggle between one system to another to get the data that I learned here into that system, which required me to write it down on a little yellow sheet so I could then remember it and type it up when I brought the next thing up on my screen. So it was really even less efficient than having that great big paper file on my desk. But I've been slogging it out for 2 years. I now wear these because reading a computer screen, maybe when you people grow up doing it, your eyes don't go bad. But when you get to be my age and you start doing it full time, it's horrid. And I'll tell you, you know what, now here I go, I'm screwing up again. I'm not paying attention to the script. I love to read books, but when I go home at night, I don't want to read anything. It is just very tiring. So you people that are out there inventing screens and the print that goes on them, you've got to figure out a way to make life easier for us. So we didn't know what we didn't know, and we didn't know who to trust, and as a result, we've had this inadequate filing system, e-filing system, for 2 years in Macomb County. We have a poor ability to manipulate our data. We have innumerable complaints from every possible corner, and that's where we stood when the decision was made, after much discussion, gnashing of teeth, study, and fear that the world would kill us for having spent all that money inappropriately. And then, of course, since it was government, we didn't pray about it at all. We began to start over. Under our former chief judge, David Viviano, who's now Justice Viviano, and that's why I'm standing here and he isn't, we began the lengthy process of search and evaluate. Frankly, for most of us in my stage of my career and where I am, the easy answer would have been, don't do a darn thing. Keep the paper files a-flowing. I've been doing it for 20 years. Why not do it that way and let you young people coming up behind us figure out how to change the world? But it's not the way if you feel that you have some responsibility for the institution itself. If you find a responsibility for making sure that our constituents are served, and that we find ways to get this data out and into the public and to the lawyers and to the constituents and to people that need it, and move it faster and make our courts more responsive. So we could have stayed a paper filing court. As I said, everyone was used to it, but there'd be no stress for us. The stress would fall on everybody else that worked under the judges, from the data mining clerks to the court clerks to the secretaries, and that just wasn't the way to do it. Because that was the way of the past, that old phrase, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, for guys like me, it wasn't really broke. It was just doing things the way we'd always done them. But under Justice Viviano, our administration at that point in time knew that the world had changed. And we could not stop or turn back the time that we had seen go by. No matter how much we might want to go back, we couldn't. There was a need to either ride this technology wave that you folks are all such a part of, or it's going to bury us one way or another. So we began looking around at several solutions around the country at that point in time. And frankly, and the guys from ImageSoft know this, I fell in love, and a couple of others fell in love with a different thing, a different program, a different system. Because for judges, it was the greatest thing on earth. It was perfect. It allowed me to do what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it. I could keep my files here and there and everything else. But as we looked at it closer and closer, the problem was it was an overlay system for judges. It really didn't do enough for the rest of the staff. It didn't do enough for the rest of the administration of the court system. And so it had to be unacceptable no matter how much we might have liked it. So we began meeting at that point in time with the folks from ImageSoft. And quite frankly, they have seemed to listen very, very well. And since I'm standing here today, you can figure I signed a contract. But what I've liked is how they have come in on a very, very regular basis. They have worked with our staff time and time again. They have observed how I do things in my office, and they've probably shaken their heads and walked out saying, that's crazy. But they have observed it, they've taken the time, they've done that more than once, and they come back again and again to check things out, to make sure that they are talking appropriately with our staff people, the people that are working on building this system for Macomb County. Now, we aren't going to go live until September, so I can't tell you how great it is. I can tell you how great I hope it will be. But as I said, this is my third attempt. But my staff does assure me that the people from ImageSoft are working really hard, and they are participating, and I'm very grateful for that, because when you make them happy, you obviously make me happy, because it makes my life better and easier. And that's what this is supposed to be. They're creating together an interface between the ImageSoft solutions and what we have in our systems already. And that's what we hope is going to accomplish a lot for Macomb County. As I said, although my experiences in district court and at the circuit court make me a little leery, I still retain hope because I believe we need to be moving forward. We need to keep pushing that envelope that you talk about, because we need to serve our constituents and provide them with the judicial services at the level and quality they expect for the tax dollars they spend. So what I'm now going to tell you is a little bit about the lessons I personally have learned in this process over, as I said, 23 years now. The first, and I know some of you already have this, so I'm not quite sure how this will hit you, but maybe you've been through the same thing. But first and absolutely foremost, don't start if you don't know what you're doing. It is a strange lesson, but it's an important one. Technology people speak a different language than those of us in the legal profession. When we say we need something, they say, oh, sure, no problem. But we're not sure that their definition of the same words are the definition that we intended them to be. And nothing against salesmen, but that's their business. They will tend, not just, and this is not an ImageSoft issue, this is an issue of the business itself. They will tend to oversell what it is they're trying to deliver. It doesn't mean they're trying to hide something from you. It doesn't mean they're trying to get something to you that's not any good. They believe in their products, and they believe that they're listening to you and answering your question. The problem is that we don't speak the same language a lot of the time, and it's very hard for us to describe to technology people what it is we do day in and day out. So they have to come in and observe. So don't start if you don't know what you're doing. Just like on a construction project, you need to have somebody who understands how that building goes up, understands the stresses of steel, understands when people are supposed to be at certain points at certain times. When you embark upon this whole process, you really ought to have somebody that represents you, to be your eyes and ears in the system and in the product development. Because at that point in time, you're spending enormous amounts of money and maybe spending a little bit up front to get quality help that is your person might be the best way to go. So think about that long before you really embark upon buying a system. Don't think you can meet your needs with a patchwork system. That's what we thought at first. We thought, man, there's a great box up on that shelf and it says e-filing. Let's go get it. We brought it in, put it down, it didn't integrate. You can't do everything in this business anymore, if you could at any one time, by patching this hole and that hole with a different system. They just don't work together. And progress is not cheap. In an era of austerity, it may seem difficult to commit money, the kind of money that's necessary to develop these products and these capabilities within your courts or within your governmental entity, but it's absolutely necessary if you have a vision for the future. And it is indeed the person within your institution, your organization, that has a vision for the future that you need to get up front. That person has to believe in it. They have to sell it to your funding agency. They have to explain why it's important. They have to explain how this will service their constituents as well as yours. And you're not going to get anywhere if that's not the case, because it's very expensive, and putting it off isn't going to help, because the future is only cheaper if you never get there. So the last question they wanted me to try to answer was, how has Macomb embraced the change? Well, we sure haven't. There are 14 judges in the Macomb County Circuit Court. It's 12 circuit and 2 probate, but we're all linked right now together. So only 2 of us are on the e-filing, and one of them deserted me to go to the Supreme Court. So I'm the only e-filing judge in Macomb County, and a visiting judge, and I'm not sure how much he's using it one way or the other. Second, the average length of judicial service in our bench is 13 years. The vast majority of us are over 50, a lot of us are over 60, and we have some over 70. But that's, if you look around the state of Michigan, the judiciary, that's your people. Those are the ones you have to work for, with, and be satisfying. So it's real important to know what our skills are and are not. And you can easily assume the are not outweighs the are. It doesn't mean we can't get this done. It does mean that you have to work a little harder to get it done, to make it happen. Because getting judges, as all of you, how many of you do work in courts here? I mean, oh, good. I was thinking when I started hearing there might be other agencies of government, you wouldn't know what I was talking about when I talk about judges. We are a strange lot. I can say I'm getting closer to retirement. I can start making these comments now, okay? But doesn't mean we can't get it done, because getting judges to change things that they have been doing for 10 or 15 years is a very, very difficult task. You have to show us why it's good and why I should put all this new effort into learning a computer when I could be golfing. For example, one of the issues is paper files. It is what we are accustomed to. But the previous 2 chief judges to me both instituted a rule. It's easily enforceable now since I'm the only e-filing judge. But the rule was that when lawyers e-file their cases, they are not to be required to bring paper copies to the judge as chambers. So when a motion's filed, it's e-filed. It will not be paper copy to the judge. If judges, at least as long as I'm still there and I can have some authority over it, if judges want paper copies, they will have to run it, or their secretary will have to run it. And that's a county expense, and you can say to them, excuse me, Judge, your copy prices are going up. It's going to take a while. The older guys like me, they're just not going to be able to do it a lot. But you know what? Most of us are going to be gone in 5 years on our bench, us old guys. So it'll be young people coming in, people who have the skills, the ability, the wherewithal to do this stuff. And so if we put the rules in place now, they'll be there. They'll be honored in the breach mostly, but they'll be honored as time goes on if we make it happen. So old guys like me have a lot to learn, and you have to remember where we go back to. I'm a perfect example. I was working on this, and I started remembering what's happened. Now, we just heard the iPhone wasn't even here 7, 8, 10 years ago. Well, most of our judges have 13 years experience. Most of us are over 50, 60, and some 70. I can remember when I was a young boy in East Detroit, Michigan, a big night I was about 5 or 6. My little brother was 2 or 3. A big Saturday night at our house. Turn on the radio, listen to Tarzan, Gangbusters, and we would have sodas made from Faygo Red Pop, Stroh's Vanilla Ice Cream, and eat New Era potato chips. That's what we did for entertainment in those days, and then you'd play some board games as well. So that's the era we come from. And so all these things that you are so accustomed to, these wonderful cell phones that I buy everything. My wife goes crazy. I buy it all, and I have no idea how to use it. And you can ask any of our staff people. They have tried to help me on various things, and they have to keep coming back. Lisa, come explain this one to me again. Or Anthony, Jennifer, come down and help me again to learn what this is about. We need repetitiveness at my age. You folks do it innately. And that's a big difference. So you have to be patient with us, but keep pushing us. Keep pushing the envelope. Some way, get it done. We have a couple of lawyers who only recently, I think we joke about this, but I'm not too sure that it's not right, learned to turn on their computers. We bought them iPads, and they thought there was something to write on. So we're at the level where we're trying to get this done. We know that it has to happen. We know that we have to get our judges convinced. We have to get our funding agency convinced, and then we have to move on. We are excited about what we're doing with ImageSoft. We're looking forward to the 1st of September. If I can get that IT department to help them make it happen. We've got some good people. Don't let me criticize the IT people, frankly. They are good people. They understand what they're looking at. They understand how it integrates, how it works. But they didn't have the authority to tell us, they say, Judge, you're screwy. You don't know what you're doing. They didn't have the authority, nor did they have the leadership. And I think there's a real problem with that centralized system that I think a lot of places are looking at now and saying, we've looked at it. I was just talking to the St. Clair County people this morning, and we've talked to the Oakland County people. They have on staff IT people at the court. You are going to need that if you want your system to work. So you have to force us, old guys, to make this happen. You have to get at it. You have to make it work, because as I said, if you don't do that, you better get out of the way, because the technology wave is going to bury us. So I hope that you help ride that wave, just like we're hoping to do, and that it doesn't bury us in the future. Thank you.